Hello and welcome to the Back Garden Garage. Now, I can actually start on rust repairs in this video. I'm going to start with this back panel. Now, I need to get the car on the rotisserie to get all the underside all cleaned up, rust free. However, this back panel, I need to bolt the rotisserie through it to be able to get the car spinning. So this needs to get changed first. So this is going to be my first attempt at any major bodywork repairs and fixes. So this is by no means a how-to video, but if you're interested in following the journey, seeing what mistakes I make along the way, then feel free to subscribe to the channel and see what result I get at the end of it. So this panel is going to be the first I remove. You can probably see the rust that is just riddled throughout. Now before I remove it, I think I'm going to refit the boot lid. That will give me a reference point so that when this is cut out and the new one put in, I can still make sure that the back half of the car is still lined up somewhat as it's supposed to be. So that is the boot lid on and all lined up so that I have some kind of reference to make sure nothing moves. I guess now it's time for the scary bit. So it's time to attack the paintwork with a wire wheel, just revealing the edges of the panels, which look like they're just brazed together. And then along the edges of the back panels, there are lots of spot welds to reveal. It's just keep grinding away until I think I can see all of them. And then hopefully, by the end of it, you'll have lots of little targets to attack. So that's a good number of these spot welds revealed. Now there are multiple ways to remove spot welds, but what I think I'm going to do with this one is use a normal drill and drill right through the spot hole. That way, it'll drill right through the panel inside at the same time. Now, what I'm hoping that will achieve is it will leave a hole on the inside panel. So when the new panel gets put on the outside, I can just drill or weld through the holes in the panel in the car. And it saves me putting new holes in the new panel. So how many times do you want to say panel in one little sequence? But that is my goal. I do also need to just use a grinder to cut the edges, but I'll do that after I've attacked all of these spot welds and see how we get on with that. Now I'm not going to show you every single spot weld, but it gives you a good idea just how many things there are to drill through when removing panels on the car, and hopefully you can get them all, because they can be sometimes a little bit tricky to see, so you might need to go back over it with a grinder, and as you can see I'm using a torch just to help me highlight any indentation to make sure I draw them all out. So now the back end is starting to look a little bit like Swiss cheese. Lots of drill holes everywhere. So we're almost there removing the panel, but these edges need to be taken apart. They look like they're brazed on, but the way I'm going to take them off is with the angry wheel. Just slicing through, making sure that I don't cut too much. It gives me some adjustment when fitting the new panel. Now inside, I'm just going to cut through the seam sealer just to help me release it from the car. So that is this back panel, very flimsy. So I'm hoping now I can use this to lever it off and and go from there really. So let's try and get this back panel off on the floor. So, while that is a scary prospect of having the back end of the car on the floor, I thought I'd take the opportunity and use the gaping great big hole to give me good access, to give the boot floor a bit of a clean. Just using some soapy water, a scrubbing brush, a few rags, just to take the worst off. Well, that's cleaned up reasonably well. Quite happy with that. I'm going to tackle this rust now. Now, I say rust, but it is just sort of surface rust, and there's quite a lot of it dotted around. So what I'm doing, just with a wire wheel in the grinder, is just going over and taking off all of the surface rust, just knocking it back before it gets bad in any way, and then spraying over it with some rust converter. So I need to let this set a little bit, this rust converter, because foolishly I did a section, sprayed it up, and the dirt and debris from the next section's now stuck in it. Luckily it all needs to be sanded back to be painted. I'm just looking to treat the rust at the time being. Now around the edges here, it's a little bit dark, but you may be able to see. I have basically took back the seam sealer with a wood chisel, and that done the trick nicely, just so I can treat the rust. And yeah, so I need to wait for that to set before any more real grinding can be done. So I am finding myself going down a little bit of a rabbit hole with this, but there is a good reason for it. Let me take you in a bit closer and I'll show you exactly what I'm trying to avoid. So in the arch here, you can see with the wheel tub, there's a lot of bit of surface rust. It's not deep, it's not gone through in any which way, but I just want to kill it now. While I've got the access, it's easy for me to just take the seam sealer off and then just wire brush it back and go over it with the rust converter. But what I have found, as you can see on this other side, the rust is actually a lot deeper behind the seam sealer than what it looks like on the surface. Now the last thing that I want to do is repair the whole underside of this car, then go into the boot and the floor and find I need to do some welding repair. So I'd rather know where the weld repairs are before I finalise the underside of the car. So that is the main reason why I'm taking advantage of this big gaping hole in the back. So I've shown you a little bit of it already. I'm not going to bore you with the rest. I'm going to crack on and I'm just going to get all of these areas in this boot floor all prepped and treated, and make a note of where the rust repairs will need to be, if there's any more than that one that I've just shown you. Hopefully not, but you've seen the rest of the car. There's bound to be. So this is what the boot floor looks like now. You can see it's all starting to go dark where the converter's doing its job. I did find some more rust. There is a good area down the back here where there's a nice hole, and then also on top there, I'm not sure if it's going to come out very well, there's a nice hole on top of that strut. Now I've cleaned up a lot of all these edges. Most of it's good, but what I think I'm going to do is just do a test fit of the back panel. I'm not ready to actually fit it, but I want to know if I'm anywhere close and what I need to do and modify to get it to fit. So I think I'm going to put it on, just put some bolts through the chassis legs to hold it in place. See how close we are. So this is why I wanted to fit this rear panel before I go much further, because these are notorious for being wrong. It's not a genuine part, it is an aftermarket part. It's a third of the price, and I wish it was a third of the quality, but there it is. Now I've got it bolted on at the bumper mounts, just to give me some kind of reference. Fitment's not too horrendous down the sides, but this is where the problem lies. This top panel, you might be able to see under here, it's supposed to be on top of this triangle part. Well, I call it triangle part, but that bit there. And then this side, it is nowhere near it. So this whole top section is shifted. Well, it's shifted that way actually, which means the boot doesn't close properly. You might be able to see, but it's out of line. No, you can't quite see it. But it will shut and hit around this corner. So, with the rest of it, I can make work and shape in, but because this top section's out, it needs to be adjusted. So I'm going to have to drill the new panel, take out all of the spot welds in here and down the back, because it's this panel as well. So we're back drilling spot welds again, but this time I need to be a little bit ginger with it. So I'm using a proper spot weld drill bit, and I'm only going to go through the top panel and hopefully not through both sections. So when they all get drilled out, I'm just going to take out this back piece, ready to realign it when it goes to be refitted. So that is cleaned up and primed, just with a bit of weld through primer, ready to be put on the car. Before I do that though, I need to clean up some of the metal. I'm going to do this side first. The other side's a little bit more complicated, but you can see as the metal's a bit damaged here, where I removed the back panel. So I need to just cut out a little section and just put a new one in there, and then just prep it ready for the new panel so it can be welded on nicely. The rest of the metal here is all good. You can see there's no rust in it. It's just obviously I've got it a bit damaged, so I'm going to repair this now. So unfortunately I don't get to show you all of the welding. This is the only bit you're going to get to see. The rest of it, you get a lovely shot of the back of my helmet. So I hope my welding gets better, but when it's ground down, I suppose it doesn't really make a difference. So that's the plate welded on. I'm just going to put some couple of holes in here and a little bit of primer on it, and that's that side done. Okay, so that side is done. Now this side is going to be the problem area. As you can see, there's lots of corrosion in around here, a bit of surface corrosion here, could go deeper, and just the state of it is all, yeah, it's pretty bad. So what I need to do is clean up this and see just the extent of it, because this back panel, I kind of need to get this done first before the back panel. So I'm going to get the wire brushes and the files and the grinders and give this a good clean up, and I'll show you afterwards, and then we can see what decision I make from there. So about 30 seconds into it, you can see there is definitely some holes already in this panel. So what I'm going to do is probably just cut off or drill out the spot welds for this toe and eye and this little bit of panel here, and just remove it. So it's quite hard to film in here while I'm actually doing the work. You can see I've taken this seam sealer off, and you can see just how far the corrosion goes in that panel. So it's definitely the right thing to do, I think, to remove this toe and eye and the panel here, because that's all going to need to be cut out, because that's a little bit deeper than just surface rust. So these spot welds are a little bit more tricky to get on. I can't get a drill in here, so I'm using a small finger sander, and I am just sanding down to go through the spot weld. Then, as I was saying, it is difficult to get any cameras in here, but I'm just drilling out the spot welds from the inside. So how quickly could things escalate? So much for just fitting this back panel. Now I have got several different sections that I need to repair and fix before it can go back on the car. Now this toe and eye section, I'm hoping I can put it in the little shot blaster, which I got recently, and clean the majority of that up and reuse it. We will see what it's like when I put it in the blaster. And then I also cut out a large section of the rear battery box, or what would be the battery box. I saw a little bit of rust, which there is, and it had gone through, and I just got carried away and chopped the lot out. So it's nowhere near as bad as what I was thinking it was in the chassis leg, which is a good thing because it doesn't need any chassis leg sort of repair. But obviously I can't reuse this as it is, so I need to get some metal to be able to fabricate some bits and pieces to get ready for this to go back in, to then put the back panel on, which was the whole idea in the first place. So if you want to see me do that, join me in the next video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time.